There is a particular kind of suffering that arrives not with catastrophe but with stillness. It shows up on Sunday afternoons when the week's obligations have dissolved and there is nothing left to do. It is the unease that settles over a person when the noise stops. Viktor Frankl had a name for it: Sunday neurosis. He described it as a kind of existential depression that emerges in people who have been using the pace and pressure of work to avoid a confrontation with themselves. When Monday through Friday is full of tasks, meetings, and deadlines, the question of what life is actually for can be successfully postponed. But on Sunday, that question has nowhere to hide. And for many people, facing it produces not peace but panic. The Sunday neurosis is a symptom, not a cause. What it reveals, in Frankl's framework, is the presence of what he called the existential vacuum, an inner emptiness that results from the absence of clear meaning. Human beings, Frankl argued, are not driven primarily by pleasure or by power, as Freud and Adler respectively proposed. They are driven by the will to meaning. When that drive is frustrated, when a person cannot find anything that feels genuinely worth living for, the result is what he termed existential frustration. And that frustration does not wait patiently for a quiet moment. It erupts into one. What is particularly sharp about Frankl's observation is the way it implicates how modern people live. He was writing in the mid-20th century, but the dynamic he described has only intensified. We have become extraordinarily skilled at filling time. Entertainment is available at every moment. Devices exist specifically to prevent stillness. And yet the rates of depression, anxiety, and addiction, which Frankl saw as existential phenomena as much as clinical ones, continue to rise. The filling of time is not the same as the filling of meaning. People can be completely occupied and completely empty at the same time. Frankl noticed this in his clinical practice. Patients would arrive not with specific traumas or identifiable neuroses in the classical sense, but with a general flatness, a sense that nothing really mattered, that nothing was worth pursuing, that life was passing by without ever quite connecting. They were often successful by external measures. They had jobs, families, social lives. But inside, there was a hollowness that they could not explain and that their therapists, trained in models focused on the past, often could not address. The Sunday neurosis was one of its most visible expressions. The patient who functioned reasonably well during the week, who had the structure of obligation to hang their day on, collapsed into anxiety or depression the moment that structure was removed. What looked like a weekend problem was actually an all-week problem that had been masked by business. Frankl's therapeutic response was not to help people relax more effectively or to manage their anxiety symptoms. It was to help them find meaning. The goal was not a more comfortable Sunday, but a Sunday that meant something, a day oriented towards something the person genuinely cared about. This might be a creative project, a relationship, a cause, a spiritual practice, or simply a renewed engagement with the natural world. The content mattered less than the orientation. What was needed was not more activity but more direction. This distinction is easy to miss. When we feel the Sunday emptiness, the instinct is to fill it, with plans, with content, with noise. And temporarily, this works. The feeling is suppressed, but it returns the following week, and the week after that, growing slightly heavier each time. The existential vacuum does not go away because it is ignored. It deepens. Frankl's insight cuts particularly close in an era when the average person consumes hours of passive entertainment daily. The Sunday neurosis does not require a Sunday anymore. It can arrive any evening, any commute, any moment of unscheduled silence. The question it asks is always the same: what are you actually living for? And if you do not have an answer, the question itself becomes the symptom. The cure is not a productivity hack or a wellness routine, though those things have their place. The cure is meaning, genuine, personal, irreplaceable meaning. Something that could only be yours to pursue and only yours to find. When that is present, stillness is no longer threatening. It is welcome. The quiet becomes the space where what matters most becomes audible. Subscribe to The Psychology of Viktor Frankl to explore more of his timeless ideas.